Whoa. Where you at?
How you feeling, Jon?
Good.
Yeah?
How you doing, Mark?
I'm all right, man. Today's a big day.
Yeah.
New album?
We got it back here, Christmas with Jon Batiste, you know. I'm ready to show y'all my holiday spirit.
Okay, I'm sure most folks know where you're from.
Yeah, I'm from New Orleans, Louisiana, and, grew up around music, sounds and rhythms in New Orleans, bedrock of rhythm and blues in this country.
Does that show on the record?
It shows in everything, my accent, my clothes, who I am. I've been here since 2004, living in New York. You know, I went to Juilliard, and I moved here at 17, but the idea of New Orleans and what that spirit is will always be in my heart.
Mm-hmm. You know, we met through Winter Marsalis.
That's right.
At Jazz at Lincoln Center.
That's right.
One of the amazing families in New Orleans.
Yes, the Marsalis family.
Boy, but the Batiste family is pretty amazing, too. And there's the Batiste Brothers Band.
Yes.
Talk about that.
Well, New Orleans has a ton of musical families because the culture is so musical that you're given an instrument almost at birth.
Yes.
And it's not the kind of a thing where you're learning how to play to become a musician. It's just a part of the culture, just like the food is a part of the culture and the architecture. So that kind of thing is not abnormal. The Batiste family, however, is one of the largest families because there are 3 branches of Batiste. You have Batiste, which is my family, my dad, who has 7 brothers, and they had a band together, the Batiste Brothers Band. And I have over 30 cousins from my 7 uncles that play. But then I have an extended family of Batiste, Alvin Batiste.
Yes.
And they're from Baton Rouge in northern Louisiana. And then there's the Batiste family with 2 T's, Battiste. And there's a ton of musicians in that family. And you have, Uncle Lionel Batiste with the Treme Brass Band.
Yeah.
I mean, Milton Batiste, Olympia Brass. It makes no sense, but that's what the reality is.
Now, while you're not related to Alvin Batiste, he was one of your teachers, is that a fact?
He was my greatest mentor in my development as a jazz musician.
Right.
I met Alvin when I was 12. Alvin Batiste is a clarinet player, and he's been an instructor for the lineage of New Orleans musicians that any one of them that you've heard of from the 60s up until 2007, he taught them.
Mm-hmm. Now, with your family band, was Christmas special? Was the music special during Christmas?
Wow. Christmas in New Orleans. I feel that Christmas has always had a spirit of unity and giving, that when you couple that with the music and the kind of atmosphere that I grew up in, it always was special. I always felt like there was something that I wanted to do with Christmas music. Mm-hmm. And I never knew when I was going to do it, but I always felt like that time will come, because every time Christmas rolled around on the calendar, I got ideas of songs, so a lot of the songs on the album are things that I've been thinking about for maybe 10 years and just haven't had the chance to, put into a collection of music.
Well, give us an example of a song or two that you've been thinking about for a long time.
Well, I mean, on the album, we did a cut, God Rest Ye Merry Gentlemen, which is a very old, traditional Christmas song. And we took that song, and my good friend Judith Hill, who's a vocalist, she's sang with many of the greats in pop and R&B music, including Stevie Wonder and Prince. She was on the Michael Jackson This Is It documentary. Mm-hmm. She was slated to actually tour with Michael. And so she's an amazing vocalist. And I had a vision about 2010 we met, and I was thinking about doing something in the Christmas spirit with Judith in her voice, because it just sounds, it's got a grit to it that I like. So we put a really gritty, soulful version of God Rest Ye Merry Gentlemen together that I had been thinking about for 5 or 6 years.
Mm-hmm. Well, man, you have a hell of a platform. Every night people see you.
Mm-hmm.
So this must be important, because you could have did any kind of record,
Yeah, you can do a lot of things these days with the internet, though. And I mean, the internet coupled with being on TV and coupled with the fan base that we had already cultivated, it is something that I wanted to give to all of these people, the new and the old fans. I don't like to even call it fans, supporters, because, you know, they support your vision.
And Jonathan, people have been supporting your vision a long time before you got on television, dude. It's amazing. Your fans, your supporters,
Yes.
they, in New York especially, you've done all kinds of little special gigs. You did a record that was recorded on the subways and
Yeah, we recorded a record on the subways and the street corners of New York in 2011, titled My NY. Mm-hmm. And that was the type of thing that I thought about doing to reach new people that were outside of the jazz community that may not, you know, for whatever reason, have the experience of going to see live music or think to go to see live music. Maybe they can't afford it. You know, just giving people access to the music, you know, I figured, why not just bring it straight to them?
Yeah. And then you had a band, Stay Human.
Yes.
And your fan base or your base of supporters grew. Talk about how you put Stay Human together and who they are.
So Stay Human is the band that developed from that Subway performance series that we did in 2011. In the summer of 2011, we must have performed on the subways for maybe 2 months, almost every day. So from that time period, a lot of our core New York fans were born. The fans outside of the jazz world, which I had been performing in from my time at Juilliard and from playing with many great jazz musicians of our time. And then that started to open us up into a whole nother world where we would perform and tour on different rock and roll or pop music festivals and venues, things like that, and just bring the music to a wider base of people, which ultimately led to where we are now.
Yes.
But Stay Human as a philosophy is about social music. It's a term that I use to kind of describe the way that jazz has progressed. It's like jazz 2.0. I mean, if you think of jazz starting in New Orleans and then going up the river, Chicago to New York, and then exposing that culture from New Orleans to the rest of the world and where it influenced everything. And now, the world being so connected, more connected now than it's ever been, jazz music, to me, is the style that can accommodate all of this confluence of cultures. So that's what social music is about.
To me, the best hip-hop musicians, the best pop musicians, country musicians are those based in jazz, right? Another example is Trombone Shorty.
Yeah.
Ever heard of Trombone Shorty? Okay. You and Trombone Shorty go way back, right?
Yeah, we went to high school, and also we were friends in middle school. You know, we went to high school together, and we had a band in high school together. And you know, he's got a very, very unique background.
Yes.
Growing up in Tremay neighborhood, so we were kindreds. You know, coming from musical families, growing up in music. And hanging out together during our time at NOCA, the New Orleans Center for the Creative Arts. That's the high school that we went to together. We would come up with all kinds of ideas about how we were going to come out here and show people our stuff.
No kidding? You guys talked about it. Wow. Did you talk about your clothing, too, that you guys were going to be clean and in addition to music? Because this is a clean gentleman, okay?
That's something that came later. You know, as you develop as a man and as a person, you think about how you want to represent yourself, and people see you and they hear you. You know, it's not just a part of the show. It's also a part of your outward expression of soul and your character. Clothes make the man, audience makes the show.
But you're getting serious about it. You're designing clothes?
Yeah,
right?
Yeah. That's just another branch of my creativity. You know, it's all one thing to me.
Well, talk a little bit about what you've been doing in that area.
Oh, well, I mean, it kind of started, I would get a lot of calls in around 2013. I started getting a lot of calls to do modeling things for clothes and different brands. And then I started to think about, you know, why are people calling me to do this? Oh, they must think I look good in clothes. I must like the way I wear clothes. So then I was like, well, I should make my own. So then I started making my own. And, you know, primarily just thinking about a vision of the music. It has to be seen and heard and felt. So all of that is holistic. Again, it's all just a part of the same thing. It's a concept.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Wow. And any brands you want to give a plug to that you're working with? They would love that, actually.
Yeah, I'm sure. We just did a campaign for Fry, Modern Icons, Fry boots and clothing, and then also recently Polo, Ralph Lauren, the Black label. Mm-hmm. And, you know, just doing a lot of different things where I'll wear things on the show. One brand that I've been working with is Rag and Bone.
Oh, I love that story.
So, you know, that there's just a lot of cool things that you can do with mixing things that you create or that I would create with great brands.
Okay, you talked about the show.
Yeah.
Now, I knew you before you got that show. When you got it, I said, son, your life is about to change, okay? Tell me what that show means to you, Stephen Colbert.
Stephen is one of those visionary artists, visionary thinkers of the world of comedy and political satire. Yes. He's got such a strong concept of what he's doing and what he wants to project to the world, the message, and just generally what he represents as a man. And it's codified in a very deep and profound way. So learning a lot from him over the last couple of years has been of great value to me. Also, just the idea of being on a show where you're given the responsibility and the privilege to be not only a part of this cultural institution, the Late Show that's been around for years, but you're piped into people's living rooms, millions of people's homes on a nightly basis. And, you know, even if it's for 5-10 seconds, they see you and feel your vibration. Mm-hmm. And that many people feeling your vibration on a regular basis is a very powerful thing. It's a responsibility that over time, I think, will be cumulative in its effect. So ultimately, I look at it as something that is important to the advancement of the culture, even though it's a comedic show, and it's also important to just make people laugh and have a good time. And I have that side of my personality, yes, too.
Yes.
It's two-sided. There's a deep seriousness and profundity there, and also there's just, you know, it's important to have a good time, especially in the times that we're living in.
Absolutely, man. How did you get the job?
So fast forward from 2011, we were playing on the subway as a means to develop a sound and also reach more people who may not have been exposed to the live music or the jazz experience. We decided, you know, we would keep building this thing, and by 2013, we had set up a tour that lasted for 9 months around the world, 6 continents. We performed all around the world and also put out an album entitled Social Music. It's kind of like the manifesto of what the concept is, the beginning. Mm-hmm. And it really went very well to the point, you know, the album, I mean, all the albums I've ever done have been independent. This is the only album partnership that I've ever done, which is with Razor and Ty for a one-off album for Social Music. The album ended up going to Billboard Jazz #1 album, iTunes Jazz #1 album, both for over a month. No promotion other than the tour. Mm-hmm. And that led to us being invited as a band, Jon Batiste and Stay Human, to come on to the Colbert Report in 2014. Uh-huh. So the Colbert Report, I mean, it was in its 9th year. It was a 9-year-long show, and this is near the end of the season. And on that show, that was the first time I'd actually met Stephen. And when we have the conversation on camera, you know, that was the first time we spoke. So it's documented, you know, the first conversation we ever had.
Wow.
Because before then I'd been talking to their producers, the great Emily Lizar, who was instrumental in introducing me to Colbert and noticing us on the tour, noticing the album. And ultimately, from that interview, there was a spark. You can see in the interview, there's a point where he throws the cards with the questions, because, you know, at one point I tell him, I like to improvise. I know you like to read those cards. and then he throws the cards out and literally comes 5 inches from my face for the entirety of the interview. From that point on, we're staring each other down, and he's asking me these questions, and it turns into almost like a form of performance art. You know, he's talking to me, and I have my instrument, and then at some point I start answering him with my instrument, and we end the interview like this close to each other, looking at the camera, and we had a really good time. It's just natural and authentic.
And so he remembered that and called.
Well, he invited me back to that show again. Luckily enough, I was a part of the family to be on the finale episode, even with many of his favorite guests from the 9-year run of the Colbert Report. And we had kept in contact. And then after that moment, he was really, you know, moving on to the next phase. And he gave me a call, and we sat down and had a long conversation about everything. And after that conversation, I had a lot to think about.
Wow. Wow. I remember on the Colbert Report, after Dave Brubeck died, he did a nice little tribute to Brubeck.
That's right.
Is he a jazz fan?
Colbert's a fan of high art and culture. He's a jazz fan. He likes things that are you have to be a nerd to be good at. He doesn't like things that are superficial. The deeper you go, the better. And you'll notice that about the things that he's interested in. He can talk to you about it for hours. He can talk to you about a lot of things for in depth, you know.
Okay, are you planning to introduce any of this music on the Colbert Show as Christmas comes and all?
Oh yeah, we're gonna shake. You know, we're gonna get it. I have a lot of different ideas about how I want to present it. We'll probably do a performance in December, and think about different ways of bringing the music to our Colbert family. But also, we're planning on doing some stuff around New York City. Just, you know, something while the holiday season is getting underway. You know, we'll wait till after Thanksgiving.
You mentioned Judith Hill. Any other special guests on the record?
Yeah, so the album has 8 guests. It was co-produced by my good friend and frequent collaborator, Nick Waterhouse, who's also an artist. Nick Waterhouse is an artist and also a fashionista. He's got his own style I love. And then we have Aloe Black and I, who is another collaborator of mine. All of these people on the album are people that I've known for at least 4 or 5 years and have collaborated with over the last several years. Lee England Jr., the hip-hop violinist, he's actually signed to Michael Jordan's label as the only musician right now. He's a violin player, but he's insane. He's playing on a track, Infinity Song, which is they're kindred spirits to us because I ran into them on the subway. They still sing in the subway and in the park in New York City all the time. And they've just been doing it for the love of the game and spreading the message of what they're all about. And they just recently got signed to Rock Nation, so I'm really happy for them because they have been doing it. It's a family of singers. It's 8 boys and girls that sing.
Wow.
And some of them are still teenagers, but the voices, the way they blend, they sound like angels, literally. Like not to be facetious or anything. They sound like angels.
I can't wait to hear it. Christmas with Jon Batiste. Can't wait, man.
Yeah, it's the kind of record you just put on when you got your turkey or your duck or whatever you eat in the oven, and it's just going. You know, it feels good.
Jonathan Batiste, everybody.
Yeah.
Any questions for Jon?
Hi, Jon. Right.
Hey.
Thank you for being here. So, what special advice was given to you when you started your career?
Well, I got a lot of advice from my mom and dad. My parents, you know, are very instrumental in making sure or in enabling everything that's happened to this point. Ultimately, if I were to put it into words or to simplify it, it's very complicated to think about all the things that they've done and how to like put it into one thing. Work hard and be yourself, I would say. They were all about staying true to who you are and knowing that you're not better than anybody else, but also nobody is better than you. So if you do your thing and stay true to that, you'll be all right in the end.
Stay human.
Mm-hmm. Yes, indeed.
Hey, Jon.
Hey.
What do you think distinguishes the Colbert Band versus other late-night shows bands?
Well, the band on the show, we're, first and foremost, we have a shared history. Joe Saylor, the drummer, we've been playing together for over 12 years now. Eddie on saxophone, we've been playing together for 10 years. He's younger than us. And, you know, Ibanda, we've been playing together for 8 years now. So that's the core band. And the number of experiences that we've shared and the musical situations that we've been in are so unique to the four of us that there's nonverbal cues and communication and repertoire that we've developed that nobody else in the world has going on. So ultimately, our shared experiences make us unique. But then the concept of what we do for a late show is to try to bring things that aren't necessarily in the mainstream consciousness and put them in a different context. So last week we did a week where we played, one night was all the music of Beethoven, and then the other night was all the music of Debussy, and then last night we did Duke Ellington and Scott Joplin's music. And then some nights we'll do all original compositions, like I'll write a suite of music in one key. And the listener, if you happen to be one of the people who's listening that deeply to what's going on, because I post it online, like on Twitter, and tell people what we're doing that night, you can actually learn something. So there's our shared history, the concept of the music, and lastly, I would say the thing that really separates us, makes us different rather, is that we have a sense of joy and youthfulness that I think is raw. We try not to be too polished. Like sometimes you'll see us in the audience when they come back from the commercial break. Other times I'm not even on stage. We switch instruments and it's communal. It's like the folk music element that was lost when music had become commodified and commercialized. We try to keep that spirit in it.
Wow. One more.
Hey, Jon. So for the show, do you have to rehearse or prepare a lot, or do you get to like improvise during the show at all? And is there any rivalry between like you and the other late show bands?
Well, first off, there's no rivalry. I mean, a week and a half ago, I had dinner at Amir Questlove's house. I mean, we talked. When I first got the offer to do the show, he was one of the first people I talked to. In fact, on the first night, we sat down, and he kind of laid it all out for me. He's like, this is what you got to watch out for. This is what you got to think about. But even before that, you know, we had done shows where on a number of times he would come out, or some of the members of the other bands would come out, and we would play together. I mean, he even mentioned us in GQ at some point back when we were playing on the subway. Like, if you don't know Jon Batiste, Stay Human, Google him and thank me later. Like, best show of 2012 or something like that. This is like Prince and Jon Batiste.
Wow.
So I mean, there's no rivalry at all. I admire what they do, and I believe in what they do, but I also believe in what we do. And sometimes I don't like to rehearse. Sometimes we rehearse, like if I've written something or there's a new piece of music, we'll run it down. But other times I like to be on edge, if that makes any sense. It's great to be on edge on national TV because different stuff comes out. Different stuff comes out of your instrument.
One last question, Jon. Another famous New Orleans guy did late night TV, Branford Marsalis.
Indeed.
Did you talk to him, get advice from him at all?
I talked to Branford. He was playing at a Bill Withers tribute, and I went there mostly, to see Bill, but also to catch up with Branford. This was at the beginning of the show, and he told me, in so many words, you're in a good situation. I can feel it just from being there. I can see, everybody looks good, seems like having fun. Everybody that you're working with seems like they like each other. Like things that are not musical, but just telling me, keep in that zone. Because that's what's most important when you're with the same group of 120 people.
Every day?
Every day.
Yeah.
I mean, we signed a contract for a few years, so we're going to be there. You got to be able to kind of, get along. I mean, I talked with Paul Schaefer. We sat down, and we had lunch, and he kind of, the same. Kevin Eubanks also, we still text. I text Kevin. It's a brotherhood because if you think about it, there's only a handful of people that have held that kind of position in history, and some of them are not with us anymore. So there's not a lot of people you can really talk about, and especially us being the youngest band to ever do it. Most of the time, it's musicians who have advanced to a certain point. I mean, for instance, Quest told me he looked at it as a retirement gig, and it's like, we had just finished our first 9-month tour. That's the first time we ever toured. We've been playing for years, but national touring, so, it's pretty significant to get help.
Jon Batiste, ladies and gentlemen.
Yes, indeed.
Christmas with Jon Batiste.
Yeah.